government experiment that was carried out in St. Louis. Residents tell us they still remember a mysterious fog. Children would run through it. Mothers would try and close their windows against it. For decades, they all had questions, and now we're seeking answers. The United States Army now admits that it sprayed a chemical that contained cadmium, a known carcinogen, on a neighborhood of more than 10,000 people. Critics say this was done with no warning and no consent. Well, tonight we return to the site of that demolished neighborhood and speak with former residents who believe the government turned them into human test subjects. Although the Army admits that the test happened, it is not admitted to harming the residents. News Nation's Natasha Zuvez investigates what was in the fog and why the truth may still be buried.
The fog drifted through the streets like a ghost.
Welcome back, friends. Thank you for choosing to tune in to this latest installment of Unwatchable content, hosted of course by yours truly, Ardee. And we can thank a loyal NoOneWatchesArDee for today's video no one is gonna watch, titled Toxic Fog, Not So Secret Government Experiments, because it was Matt Bingham who first alerted me to this subject a few weeks ago during the premiere for my first video regarding subclade K, and he happened to pipe up in the live chat with some contextual comments and informed me that there had been a very strange lingering fog that had been hanging over California for some time, and that it was making an awful lot of people sick. And he sort of continued to highlight and comment that maybe it was a very convenient coincidence that around the time that a few news agencies in a couple of states within the US were starting to alert their viewers that there was a new mutant variant influenza strain named subclade K that was starting to become a little bit rampant, and there were a rise in cases not only in the United States but around the world. And since that first subclade K upload, I have done a little bit of looking into the subject and topic of toxic fog and found out some very, very interesting things, and coincidentally enough, within the last 36 hours, about 48 hours after the announcement that there was a severe outbreak of subclade K that had already affected over 3 million United States citizens so far, a month prior to the official start of the flu season. There has been further announcements and warnings for fog alerts in various parts of the country and also around the world. The United Kingdom, India, as well as Southern California are all experiencing fog at the moment, and fog is something that was affecting the state of California for quite some time, and by all accounts it had been hanging around for approximately 3 months. Now, I actually do recall that earlier in the year, around January, February, reading a couple of news reports and articles regarding some sort of strange and mysterious fogs over other cities. I actually believe Toronto might have been one of them. But there were some reports earlier in the year that there were some mysterious fogs descending over various cities around the nation. And as I said, I've done a little bit of digging over the last sort of few weeks on this subject, although nothing exactly that intensive, but I have found out an awful lot of interesting information, including some dastardly goings on by the United States back in the 1950s in the city of St. Louis, which we are going to look into and explore during this video. So we are going to be taking a time-traveling trip back to the good old 1950s, as well as pointing out and looking at some recent articles and newsreels from the last 24 hours to 36 hours and over the last few weeks regarding fog, and what exactly this fog is, where it is coming from, is something we may struggle to answer completely, but we might be able to find some explanations in this presentation. And we do, as always, have videos, news articles, and in this one, thank you Bonfilia, we also have patents to boot. So buckle up folks, because we are about to embark on yet another journey of exploration through the alternative avenues of possibility.
Fog is blanketing parts of Southern California once again. A dense fog advisory is in effect, with visibility dropping to a quarter mile or less in some areas, making travel challenging, to say the least. Well, we have team coverage tonight. Chief Meteorologist Adam Kruger is tracking the forecast. Fox 11's Ed Lascos is live in Westchester with more on what you know if you're heading out on the road tonight. Ed.
And Susan, you've been talking about it, and it seems this fog is growing more dense, more dangerous by the very hour. Joe, let's get right into the story, will you? Looking across Jefferson there, where Lincoln, looking at those Christmas lights all the way down there, you can still see them, but it's getting more hazy as we go hour by hour, and the fog thickens up. Watch. A foggy night, jetliners appearing out of the fog like they have a Romulan cloaking device just before landing at LAX. All through the west side, headlights cut a beam through that dense fog. And check this, you're looking through our Santa Monica camera, or if you can even see anything as that fog rolls in.
Oh, it's horrible. I mean, it blinds you pretty much, you know. It's very thick, especially in the morning time.
And especially if you're going on the freeway and you have faster speeds, I mean, you can't see where you're going.
No, not at all. I mean, if you don't have good fog lights or good lights in general, it'll blind you.
The fog laying its blanket of haze over the Southland, seemingly getting more dense and dangerous by the very hour through the morning commute.
Visibility is low, and gotta watch where you're going for sure. A little bit of rain this morning, it seemed like, where I was in Hermosa, so that doesn't help.
But you really can't even see where you're going. Like if you're on the freeway, you can't even see.
Exactly, yeah, especially in the morning, it's even rough.
Rough and dangerous. This the scene, the foggy scene on the 91 freeway near the 55 in the Orange, Anaheim area. A big rig, jackknife down on its side, blocking the eastbound lanes just in time for your Tuesday morning commute. CHP says it may be the dirty work of the dense fog. Commuters say there's just no visibility with this fog.
It's been pretty heavy, especially in the Palos Verdes area. It's been pretty thick, but again, being responsible, not trying to be crazy on the road.
Here's how not to be crazy on the roads. Reduce your speed. Don't overdrive your headlights. Avoid using your high beam. It'll reflect the fog and blind you even more. Use your wipers and defroster. That'll help you see better through your windshield. And if you're at an intersection, looking both ways isn't enough with this fog. Lower your window and listen. That from Caltrans, and this from somebody who's been driving through the dense fog.
It's sticking around. It's not going away.
What do? You just slow down?
I try to slow down, yeah, and watch my surroundings. It's kind of all you can do.
And kind of hold your breath.
For sure, yeah. Hopefully you don't get in that accident. That's always the goal.
Now live, always the goal, hold your breath. And something we've been hearing from so many of the drivers tonight is they're not worried about themselves, but they're worried about the other person not slowing down. And to that point, another tip we're getting from CHP is if you're on the freeway and you don't have the overhead lights, visibility is really low, turn on your four-ways if you have reduced speed. This way, somebody really coming up behind you with that low visibility will see you, and you can avoid being hit from behind by somebody who is not slowing down. For now, we're live here at Westchester. Back to the west side we go.
As far as your forecast goes, we're starting off with fog again. This is the view from Long Beach. Temperatures are in the 50s, and look at that. The visibility is down to a quarter of a mile. So we do have a dense fog advisory in effect for LA County and Orange County. You can kind of tell where it's in effect because the visibility is less than a mile. We got a goose egg over at LAX, but inland, things are nice and clear. The fog should lift by 9-10 in the morning. Now, we also have an air quality alert. This is in effect throughout the day, includes Orange County and the Inland Empire this time. We have have stagnant air and high levels of particle pollution. And if you add any more smoke to the air, then it could cause worsening conditions for folks that have respiratory issues. So limit that, try not to do it. And if you do have asthma or conditions of that sort, then you want to limit your time outside.
Let's bring in meteorologist Carly Smith to lead us off. Hey, Carly.
Yeah, hey, Leslie and Mike. Once again, we are talking dense fog. So we have a weather impact alert. The National Weather Service has issued a dense fog advisory between 3 a.m. and 10 a.m. on Thursday. That main impact, of course, is going to be the visibility, dropping to around 1/4 mile or less across the majority of the coastal bend. What you need to do is be prepared to drive safe. And some of those tips for driving safely, they include slowing down, keep a larger distance between you and the car ahead of you. This applies in the drizzle we're seeing right now as well. Don't use cruise control. Don't use your bright lights, but do use your headlights or your low beams and delay that travel if possible. So right now we're looking toward Moore Plaza a little bit. Home Depot's right here. We were watching the rain that's moving in, but now we have a period of dry weather that is shaping up here across SPID. It is 67 degrees. There is still some rain in the area. Wind is out of the east right now as we speak. And it is light, and that is why we are anticipating this fog to develop. So we'll see that fog around midnight, really starting to thicken a bit. Clouds continue to develop right there at the surface. As we head into 7 a.m., that's going to be some of the worst driving conditions right about the time you're getting ready to head to work, take the kids to school. Use extra caution through those school zones. It will be difficult to see. This fog should break and lift by the time we get into the afternoon. Roughly around 9-10 a.m. is when we start to see big improvements on our visibility early in the morning. That wind picking up as well, that will help mix out the fog. We'll have a southwest wind tomorrow. We'll talk about what that means for your temperatures coming up. Leslie, Mike.
And the rain going into a holiday week.
Yeah, and we had a cold front that allowed some clearing into the afternoon, allowed some sunshine, warmer temperatures. But this was expected because that cold front brought that moisture. So we have that widespread fog, and you can see we're down to about 1/4 mile in visibility in Livermore. But let's zoom this in and show you what areas and what highways you'll be dealing with that fog. Let's get right to that microclimate weather forecast. So I zoom this in. If you're going to be traveling along 580, 680, heading in through Oakland into parts of Concord, take a look down to about 4 miles. And then if I kind of stretch this down to the South Bay, whether you're traveling up or down into San Jose, we certainly have that fog. Take a look right here along 680. And then if I go even further south, 101 stretching from Morgan Hill, Santa Cruz, Highway 17, also seeing that dense fog. Now, that dense fog advisory is for areas in inland East Bay until 7 a.m. in parts of Santa Cruz. But I want to show you what's extending out in the Pacific. So tomorrow will be mostly dry, but we could see some areas of some spotty showers. And that fog, of course, is going to make those temperatures feel a lot colder. We've got 40s and 50s, so that warmth that we enjoyed today will be back tomorrow afternoon, but likely a little bit cooler. And here's the reason why. I took this to 8 a.m. Look how widespread the cloud cover is. So any areas that see rain will likely be more to the north and around the coastline. We're talking drizzle here for Thursday. We'll get some partial clearing into the afternoon down through parts of the South Bay, but look at Santa Rosa, Concord, and through Livermore. It's going to pretty much stay cloudy all day. Now, our next rain chance will move in on Friday, but the daytime highs for tomorrow are going to show us some mid-60s, and it looks like we're going to go right back down into the upper 50s because this next system will arrive on Friday. Friday's system looks like it's going to pack a punch more towards areas north of the Golden Gate Bridge, but we will get areas of rain down through the South Bay as well. Rain totals, again, will be mostly beneficial. Not concerned about any flooding out of the initial round of rain for Friday, but heading into late Sunday. So Saturday and Sunday we'll get showers. Late Sunday into Monday, this is where those rain totals will start to ramp up, along with the wintry mix for the Sierra. And then we get pauses and breaks in between systems. But take a look into Tuesday, December 23rd, just in time for Christmas Eve. We get another round of rain that moves in, and it doesn't stop there. It sets up for Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, ending out December on a wet note, because look at all that precipitation out in the Pacific. So we're going to end December on a wet note, but for now it looks like the heaviest rain moves in late Sunday, staying into Wednesday. That's going to bring elevated flood concerns, Sierra snow for the higher elevations. So if you're planning, Your 7-day forecast looks like this. Rain in the forecast. Again, it'll be periods of on and off again rain, which is critical and a key component, because when we start to see a lot of saturation, things can get quick rises in the rivers and stream flows, and also, of course, flood concerns.
We knew there would be payback here for all those 3 weeks of no rain.
I think we got a little sunshine, and in comes the fog.
Thanks, Vianney.
You outside right now. Live look from Universal Studios. You can see the skies are clear there, but that's certainly not the case around Southern California today.
Yeah, not at all. I mean, even looking behind us, it's kind of murky. Meteorologist Melissa McGee is here now with more on that.
Yeah, we've got this marine layer that's pretty stubborn, and because of that, it's hanging on for so long during the afternoon, having an impact on how warm the temperatures get. So we'll get into those details. Carolyn and Colleen show you the picture outside. Once again, from our Mount Wilson camera, you can see the blanket of cloud cover just hovering right over Southern California, but a beautiful picture. You can see the sun there in the distance and beautiful tree cover as well. San Bernardino right now looking at 77. Palmdale, the high temperature in at 71 in the Antelope Valley. Downtown Los Angeles, you had more of that dense fog today. So because of that, that temperature in at 68, which is actually close to average for this time of year. In Santa Monica, only coming in at 63 degrees. Looking at the weather headlines, we still have the fog around tomorrow, but it will be fairly patchy in comparison to the dense fog we had today, or all of the thickness we had in the air, and that's all because of the wind direction changing. We'll get into that in just a moment. It's breezy, though, as we go throughout our Thursday. It will be a warmer afternoon, and then we'll start to cool down as we head into our weekend and into our holiday week next week. So a lot to go over. We've got the 60s right now for the coast. It's 63 for Long Beach, where visibility is down to 2.5 miles at this hour. 61 for LAX. Van Nuys in at 76. 66, though, Victorville, and 71 degrees there in Riverside. I want to show you the winds. They are gusty in some spots in those typical wind-prone locations for the Santa Clarita Valley as well as the San Fernando Valley. Winds gusting anywhere from 30 to about 35 miles per hour. The high desert Victorville, we've got a gust up to 36 miles per hour. So there is a wind advisory for LA and Ventura counties. This will stay up into the overnight hours. But that wind also having an impact on our temperatures, especially as we head into our Thursday. So satellite and radar showing you it's all about this ridge of high pressure, and that's why numbers inland have been fairly mild for this time of year, and we've got more of that offshore flow as we head into our Thursday. So tomorrow we'll start to warm it up again, breezy by the afternoon, but still looking out for areas of patchy fog for the coast and the basin. 79 degrees for the basin tomorrow, 85 in Riverside, 85 as well San Bernardino, and 80 degrees there in Thousand Oaks. It will be turning cooler, especially as we head into our weekend. So Thursday is a warm day thanks to that offshore flow in at 79. After that, more of that onshore flow does take over. Friday down to 72, and we're down to 70 degrees for the start of our weekend on Saturday, with this onshore flow really developing across much of Southern California. Then we're going to fast forward into early next week. So there's a lot happening. Long-range futurecast showing you as you head into your Thursday. You can see we've got a storm system out across the Pacific Northwest. I do want to widen out the picture here because as we head into our weekend, we've got more clouds around here in Southern California. There's a little stream of moisture. This is an atmospheric river that we're tracking as we head into our next week. And there is the potential of a storm system moving in, especially as we get into Christmas Eve. That's Wednesday into our Thursday. So we're going to keep you posted on the timing with that as this jet stream buckles, allowing for some moisture to work its way into our region by then. Forecast tomorrow for the basin, 79, 72 for you on your Friday, lower 70s for you right through the start and the finish of your weekend. Then once we get into Christmas Eve on Wednesday, chance of some showers, and we're cooling down into the 60s next week. The valley is 84, lower 70s on the way as we head into our weekend. Pattern change develops as we head into Tuesday, into Christmas Eve on Wednesday, and potentially Christmas Day. We're tracking some moisture, so we go from the 80s, 70s to 60s on the way next week. High desert, 74 degrees tomorrow, 80s on the way for the low desert over the next 7 days here. Mountains breezy by the afternoon, 67. Then we'll start to cool it down with the 50s and chance of showers as we head into next week. That's your forecast. Carolyn, back over to you.
We were seeing the thickest fog out of the entire state across the Bay Area early this morning. So I kind of wanted to just take a step back. First of all, explain why fog forms and the types of fog that we're seeing. Again, early this morning, as you can tell, the Bay Area, definitely the most widespread, the thickest of the fog. This is our view literally from space. So yeah, the fog was so thick that you can see it from space. You'll notice, though, there's two different areas of fog. The one I'm standing on that's coming in from the coast, from the marine layer, and then the one farther inland. The one farther inland has just begun to develop over the past several days. This is known as Thule fog. Thule fog basically is just the fact that thick, dense fog forms after a storm system moves through. When there's moisture on the ground, that cold air moves over top of it. The fog forms, again, likely less than a quarter of a mile for a lot of the Thule fog formation. It can only happen on calm and clear nights, though. So yes, that's our inland areas. That's the reason that they are so foggy, because of the Thule fog that we are going to continue to see throughout, I'm sure, the next several mornings, because there's still going to be a lot of moisture on the ground. But what you notice along our coastal communities, this is not the Thule fog. This is not the radiation fog. This is known as advection fog. This is the marine layer that is literally just being brought in by winds. So advection fog is all about winds moving over a colder surface. And it doesn't necessarily have to be on a calm, cold, or quiet night. It happens in the summertime most often when we see that marine layer. The reason that we're foggy in the summer is because of advection fog. The reason that we're foggy in the winter normally is because of radiation fog. So it's really interesting that because we're in the fall, we're not in summer or winter right now. We're seeing a little bit of mix of both radiation and advection fog to kick off this morning. And I'm sure this is going to be the case for a lot of mornings this upcoming week. So just something to keep a very close eye on. Hopefully you learned a little bit about why it's so foggy in the Bay Area. And next time you look outside, you can kind of figure out for yourself, hey, is this advection fog? Is this the marine layer? Or is this radiation fog, the Thule fog developing in the Central Valley?
Hello there, and a very good evening to you on this Tuesday evening, which is turning foggy for many with some frost before all change coming in from the west. The air is cold overnight. Expect some frost, particularly across central and eastern areas, as that fog extends across many central parts of the country. And then rain sweeps in through tomorrow. Still, again, tricky conditions if you are travelling. The rain has been relentless through the last month, and that rain will continue to return and just pulse from the south as we head through Thursday. Into Friday, it's a blustery day with showers, dry skies towards the south and also some sunshine.
Now, people in the national capital woke to dense fog on Monday, sharply reducing the visibility to near zero and slowing early morning traffic across the city. Now, the IMD has issued an orange alert for fog, urging residents to remain cautious. Night temperature has also dipped to 8.2 degrees. We're learning that Delhi Airport has issued an advisory amid a dense to very dense fog condition. They've said that flight operations may experience disruption today. So that is as far as the fog condition in the national capital is concerned. Let us take you through the advisory that has been put out by Indira Gandhi International Airport, stating that the flight operation could be disrupted because of the fog. This is the advisory. Due to dense fog, flight operations may experience disruption. We are working closely with all the stakeholders to minimize the inconvenience to passengers. For the latest flight updates, passengers are advised to contact their respective airlines. So before leaving for the airport, they must in fact check with their airlines first. But this is the advisory that has been issued, that the flight operations may experience a disruption because of the foggy condition as far as the national capital is concerned. Let me go across to my colleague Rishabh, who's been tracking all the details. Rishabh, there is fog situation in the national capital. We're learning that the flight operations may be affected by this. Is there any update on any delay or cancellation at the Delhi airport?
Well, Akansha, let me show you these visuals, what we are facing right now early this morning in New Delhi. This is the ITO, WHO headquarters area, and this is how the visuals are. The visibility is hardly any thing that we can say. 110 meters is what the visibility on the Delhi roads are. It's 7 a.m. in the morning. When you come from the Delhi Meerut Expressway, it takes you around 20-25 minutes from Noida to reach the central Delhi area. But today, given the speed it was, it looks like, it will take much longer given the visibility that is very, very less. Same thing is happening with the air traffic as well. Given that, the visibility is less, the airlines are compelled to delay their flights as well. There are multiple advisories that have come in from various airlines as we are talking.
Absolutely. So that is the situation on the ground. Whether or not there is a delay in or cancellation in any flight is something that remains to be seen. But that remains the situation. We are learning that IMD has also issued an orange alert as far as the fog situation is concerned. The temperature, we are learning, has also dipped in the national capital. Last night, it dipped to as low as 8.2 degrees.
See, the temperature has gone down, the fog, the smog situation has come in, and the visibility is way too low right now in the national capital. We are right now crossing the ITO areas, and this area is something that, gives, which is always buzzing, but this is how the visibility is right now, Akasha. This is the red light of ITO. The moment you roll down the windows of the car, you start coughing, given that there is smog, there is a smell there, the pollution levels are quite high, and this is how the morning at the ITO is looking like. 7:30 in the morning, and you can see as we are moving towards Central Delhi, toward Connaught Place, this is the visuals that we can bring in for our viewers as well. The visibilities are very low. The traffic movement has turned down slow. The speed has gone down, and now as you're seeing, the AQI levels are still in very severe level. Come what may, it looks like that there will be long delays as well in the airlines. Anyone who's moving out for off.
Absolutely, and IMD has also issued an orange alert urging residents there to remain cautious, and that shows you, in fact, the situation on the ground as dense fog has gripped the national capital.
So having just watched those selection of videos from the last 24 hours from around the world, those primarily they were mostly situated in California. We did hear one from the United Kingdom and also one from India, and I'm sure some of you had a laugh or two during that Indian news report because maybe their accents sounded a little bit humorous to you, but do bear in mind their English is probably considerably better than your Hindi. But when it comes to selecting an article regarding fog alerts, it is a case of where to start, Ardee. And as you can see, there's some already clicked in purple that I've already jumped on. And from 6 hours ago, there is a fog advisory from KGNS. Some of these are coming out of India, some of them are for California, but as we will see, there are other states also suffering or have had fog issues, fog alerts issued within the last 24 hours. There's another one from India. IMD issues red alert for dense fog conditions in India. We will probably come back to that because India seems to be getting hit very, very hard with this, what they're calling Airmageddon. When they've weaponized the air, what a chance does humanity truly have? But Hindustan Times, very dense fog alert, IMD predicts thick. THV11.com, dense fog advisory issued for parts of. Let's click on that one, see if it was about India or if it's in the United States. This one's actually for Arkansas, so there you go, guys. Arkansas is also on the list of places that has had a dense fog advisory. Dense fog advisory has been issued for parts of Arkansas. What to know? Dense fog is expected to cover parts of central, north central, southeast and western Arkansas until Thursday morning. Here's what you need to do. So hopefully it is passed by now. And it says says Little Rock is going to be affected due to the fog impacting the area. A weather impact alert has been issued for central Arkansas until 10 a.m. on Thursday. It's expected to, as we've already read. So as I said, guys, let's not spend too much time on there. There's a little map there, hour by hour. So it looks like they got cloud coverage for most of the day. There is a 7-day forecast for you there. But as I said, let's click out, not spend too much time. Here's one from San Francisco again. That is California based. That came out a couple of hours ago. Dense morning fog. Dense fog advisory for California an hour ago from the Sacramento Bee. KPLC 7 News. Let's see where they're situated. First alert forecast. A foggy morning will give way to another cold front tonight. So this is in a cold part of the country. It doesn't say exactly what state this is in. We'll start this Thursday morning with some locally dense fog, so use caution on the roadways for your commute. Once fog lifts, we'll quickly warm up and we should reach the 70s this afternoon, so it isn't anywhere cold. Don't get too comfortable with it. Is that Arkansas from the look on the map there, or is that somewhere else? Let me know. But the cold front should bring in some isolated showers both early this morning and again starting in mid-afternoon. But rainfall totals will be very low and all showers should move by from 7 p.m. Is that Arkansas? I don't know, guys. It hasn't actually stated the state unless I've missed it there, and hasn't even given me a city that I could recognize. But never mind, there's another place. Let me know if you know where KPLC TV operates out of. Is there anything there that might give it away? No. But anyway, another place suffering from a fog alert. KIIITV.com, weather impact alert for dense fog on Thursday. Let's see where that is. Maybe they will give us an insight as to where they are based. No. Disable your ad blocker. No, we're not going to do that, so let's move on. What causes frogs? Here's why Central Texas sees it so often, and this is from the Austin American Statement, so I'm not entirely sure if they are suffering one or if this is just a genuine article. What causes fog in Central Texas? Why the NWS issued a dense fog advisory? So they did, and this was from December 25th. December 20... Jesus Christ, RD. December 17th, 2025. Fog over the Texas capital there. That would have probably made a nice thumbnail. And we can actually listen to this if we want to. Should we do that?
What causes fog in Central Texas? Why the National Weather Service issued a dense fog advisory? This article is being read by an automated voice generated by Everlet. The National Weather Service has issued a dense fog advisory for South Central Texas overnight into Thursday morning, warning that visibility could drop to a mile or less. Fog is especially common in Central Texas during fall and winter, when longer nights allow temperatures to cool enough for moisture in the air to condense. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Association defines fog as water droplets suspended in the air at the Earth's surface. In everyday terms, we are literally walking and driving through clouds. There are several ways in which fog can form, including lowering the temperature to the dew point, adding enough moisture to raise the dew point, and mixing cold air with warm, moist air. During winter events when temperatures drop below freezing, freezing fog can also occur. If fog becomes severe, the National Weather Service may issue a dense fog advisory. If you encounter dense fog on your commute, the best thing to do is to slow down. Allow extra distance between your car and the cars in front of you, and always switch your headlights to low beams. Types of fog seen in Central Texas. Radiation fog. This is one of the most common types across the country, especially in the fall and winter. It forms under clear skies and light winds when heat escapes from the Earth's surface at night, allowing the air temperature to meet the dew point. This reduces the air's ability to hold moisture, leading to condensation and fog formation. Radiation fog usually dissipates shortly after sunrise as the ground warms. Advection fog. This type forms when warm, moist air moves horizontally over a cooler surface. It is commonly seen around the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco and along the Gulf of Mexico. Upslope fog. This develops when air flows up a sloping surface, expanding and cooling as it rises, a process known as adiabatic cooling. Precipitation fog. As the name suggests, this fog forms during rain or with the passage of a front. Evaporation from falling raindrops adds moisture to the air below the cloud. If enough vapor is added to saturate the air, fog develops. Around the web.
And there you go. Well, thank you, AI, for reading us that. We're going to have difficulties coming out of there. So there is also Texas was, in fact, impacted this morning with a fog advisory. Where was this one for? Late flight through Thursday morning for WWL. And this is New Orleans, Louisiana. Disable your ad blocker. We'll continue without. So this one come out of New Orleans. We're not going to click on the video. We've seen enough already. And again, that guy doesn't look very pleasant to look at, although some of the ladies watching might find him attractive. But we've seen enough videos regarding these, but this is another example of a fog advisory, this time from Louisiana. So what's that, 4 states already that we've heard of in the United States that are under advisory this morning. News on that, red alert issued for, that's again from India. I think that one above, also from 6 hours ago, is from India. Weather advisory, dead fog. Okay, if you've got to verify if I'm a human, we're not going to stick around to wait for your verification, but this is the one I wanted to talk to you about. The Independent, a rare peak fog descends on the UK as the Met Office issues weather warnings across the country. Wednesday the 17th December 2025. Have we got to sign up for a free... Oh, I forget the Independent is a horrible website to click on. It has lots and lots and lots of pop-ups and an intrusive thing on the side that you can't get rid of. Let me try and edit around it and crop it if I can. But many Britons woke up on Wednesday morning to find a pink fog had descended in a rare weather phenomenon. Of course it's rare. People in London and the southeast of England reported seeing the rosy skies, which occurs when the sunlight passes through layers of fog during a sunrise or sunset. The Met Office explains that when the sun is low on the horizon, its light travels through more of the atmosphere. Because fog is essentially a cloud at ground level made up of tiny water droplets, shorter wavelengths. Could that be a little secret hint there that they're using frequencies? Blue and green light are scattered out, leaving the longer red wavelengths to dominate. When this filtered light shines through fog, it gives the fog a pink or rosy hue, which is purely an optical effect. It does not indicate any unusual weather hazard beyond normal fog risks, such as reduced visibility. Sure, it doesn't. The fact that they sort of had to go out of their way to say it's purely an optical effect and does not indicate any unusual weather hazards suggests that maybe it is an unusual weather hazard. But there is a picture of the pink fog. Are we able to see any more? No. So there you go, guys. There was some rare pink fog in the UK. So let's not go on to page 3. Let's come back and click on one of these out of India. Oh no, that's the one not from India. IMD issues red alert for dense fog condition. So this is out of India as of today, and there's another thing at the top there I don't think we can get rid of. Sorry about that, guys, but IMD issues red alert for dense fog conditions over up. And there is a picture of India on the map there. The Indian Meteorological Department, IMD, has issued a red alert for dense to very dense fog conditions over Uttar Pradesh tomorrow. IMD said that similar conditions will also prevail over Bihar, Punjab, Haryana, Chandigarh, Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh, Jharkhand, and northeastern parts of India. So pretty much all over India it's going to be foggy, and please forgive my pronunciations. They are a little bit difficult to pronounce if you have a Western tongue. But the Met Department has forecast a cold wave conditions to prevail over UP and Uttarakhand for the next 2 days. The air quality in Delhi continues to to remain in the very poor category. According to the Central Pollution Control Board, the average air quality index for the national capital was recorded at 387 as of 7 p.m. today. So I don't think there's much else to read. No, there isn't. So there you go, guys. Not only the United States, the UK, Arkansas, Louisiana, Texas, California, all suffering for fogs. Sorry, my obsessive compulsions have got the better of me, so let's just click in to page 3 and just to soothe my obsessive compulsions. Sky News, here you go, from one day ago. The UK heavy weather warning of prolonged heavy rain, and that's nothing about fog, but the picture is foggy. China issues a yellow alert for heavy fog, so China also is involved. NBC Los Angeles, first alert forecast dense fog from 2 days ago. WGNO, dense fog advisory Wednesday night into Thursday. Where's WGNO out of? New Orleans, so that's Louisiana again. There's another, The Guardian, rare pink fog blankets parts of the UK with warnings issued. Of course, it's perfectly normal, but we just issue a warning. Dense fog advisory issued for Hayes, Como, and Blanco. Where's this? KYE, Hayes, Como, and Blanco count is until 9 a.m. That's Texas. India TV, up, dense fog warning, that's again from India. CNBC, dense fog or cold wave alert in UP, schools closed, again that is from India. So that is it for fog alerts. Now let's go and look at weaponized fog. So you join me on a little smoke break in between recordings, although it's not really a smoke break if I'm recording, but I did so in order to sort of show you the sky that I'm looking at currently, which is very, very overcast, considering, you know, within the last 24 hours around the United States and other parts of the world there's been fog advisories, and as you can sort of clearly see, there's very little sky to be seen, although it does look a little bit as though it is breaking up there. A few patches of blue, enough to make a sailor his pants, is a saying that my old aunt used to say, coming from a nautical nation such as the United Kingdom. Naval references are quite frequent and prominent, but this is a sort of sky, I must admit, that I myself have been seeing frequently since around about September. In fact, I've seen more cloud than sky and very, very little sun in the 3 or so months since September, and the sort of summer months disappeared and the rainy season arrived, and it's been a very, very long, miserable, dragged out rainy season, which is really what truly prompted me to start making videos again, because on days like this, what can you really do? I mean, it's no fun to sit out in the garden, and it's sort of no much fun to sort of be stuck and cooped upside, staring at the walls or endlessly scrolling, looking for things to watch yourself. But let me give you a little scan around the garden. There is also some animal activity. There's Bonfilia over there scratching on a log. Some of my cactuses, a little bit of a tree, bananas, plants. There's a pug. Hello, Binny. You want to say hello? Hello. More cactuses and plants. There's Nugget looking for something to eat, and there's my other dog Dobby also looking for something to eat. Hopefully I will avoid stepping in any dog vomit as I did the last time I was out of my garden and making a video looking at the sky, when we saw a very rare chemtrail, and there could well be chemtrails going on above this cloud cover. You wouldn't be able to tell what was going on, and maybe that is part and parcel as to why we're seeing so much cloud cover, because at time of recording 31 Atlas is about to be as close to Earth as it has ever been. I think the 19th of December is the day it is going to be closest of Earth, so that is tomorrow at the time of recording, and maybe there's a good reason as to why the clouds are being saturated with cloud and fog. So smoke break over, let's get back to productions and weaponized fog. So we are going to start out on weaponized fog from an article that circulated January the 4th of 2025, so nearly a year ago now, and this is actually courtesy of yahoo.com, which is recirculating a article from the New York Post, which unfortunately is a publication or a platform that you can't read unless you create an account. But this article starts out by saying Americans are alarmed by a chemical fog that is spreading across the United States. The phenomenon sparks a bioweapon conspiracy theories after drone sightings, and that was also something that was sort of occurring around about last Christmas time, and even myself saw a drone here over Cancun during New Year's Eve, although it was probably just some of the recording the New Year's Eve fireworks and nothing more sinister than that. But there were some various sightings of drones being seen over the United States during the last holiday season. But this article starts out by reading New Year, New Conspiracy Theories. Parts of the United States have been blanketed by a mysterious fog, just as they are doing at the time of recording. There's been mysterious fog, so the year is sort of ending where it begun, with mysterious fogs cascading across the United States. But this mysterious fog was sparking concerns from locals who claims it has a chemical smell, and exposure can result in flu-like symptoms. And hopefully, guys, you're seeing where we are going with this. Are we connecting the dots? Could it possibly be this wave of fog alert outbreaks is the way that they are transmitting subclade K? Just speculation, just a theory, just exploring an alternative avenue of possibility. I'm not saying for a minute that is what it is doing, just speculating. And as this article also speculates, that this flu like symptoms could be a result of what they believe is a toxic fog. But a Florida resident, back to the article, told the Daily Mail that they felt sick after being outside in the fog for just 10 minutes. And this is something, again, I have to thank Matt Bingham for drawing my attention to this, because it was during that initial subclade K video that he drew my attention to the fact that there had been a mysterious fog that had descended and lingered over California for some while, and he reported also that many of the locals and people were getting sick from being within it. He didn't actually go as far as to say if it was flu-like symptoms that they were getting sick with, just that they were getting sick. But within an hour, I kept sneezing. This is not me, this is the individual in the article, over and over again for about 3 hours, and my eyes were really puffy, the unnamed Floridian claimed. I got very warm, and it felt like I had a fever, and my stomach was cramping. The Daily Mail reports that the occurrences have an eerie echoes of Operation Sea Spray, a secret biological experiment conducted by the United Navy back in 1950. At the time, Ceratate Marco... Let me get my stronger glasses. It's not cutting it. There we go. Serratia marcescens and Bacillus globulus bacteria. Always was weird. Why can't you just name it normal stuff? But it was sprayed all over the San Francisco Bay Area to determine how vulnerable a large American city may be to a bioweapon attack. And at least one American was killed and 10 others were seriously sickened. Now, it wasn't only San Francisco Bay that was sprayed during the 50s, it was also St. Louis. So we are going to go and have as I said at the outset of this video, travel back in time to the 1950s and look at Operation Sea Spray and that incident in St. Louis. So they were there and 10 people were sickened. There's a TikToker that posted footage of himself walking through the fog. There you go. Chemical fog, you probably might point at something, but conspiracy theories have run rampant on social media as people in multiple states have reported a similar phenomenon, which comes after drone sightings. So were the drones sort of seeding the skies that then produced the fog that then made people sick. But footage online shows a flurry of particles floating within the fog, sparking fears that it is no ordinary weather event, but rather some sort of bioweapon. Described as thick, lingering blanket, the fog has left people sick. Do you have to let it linger? Many experiencing, just moved on its own then, a sudden cold or flu-like symptoms. Again, guys, are we connecting the dots between the outbreak of subclade K and the rise of fog alerts? But after many experiencing sudden cold or flu-like symptoms after only brief exposure, one person explained on X of the so-called chemical fogs, dubbed FogVid24. Some victims have also reported an unexplained loss of energy, and for some reason, everything froze then. I don't know why. There is the individual on TikTok. We're not going to entertain TikTok videos here. But according to the Daily Mail, people on X have reported strange smells that burn their noses, speculated that the government dumped a bunch of microbes on the country this week in the form of fog. It tastes and smells after setting off a lot of fireworks. That sulfur smell, one TikTok user wrote, adding that it's freaking me out. Meanwhile, a Kansas resident also told the outlet that she saw massive amounts of chemtrails in her area preceding the onset of the fog. This fog does not look like fog. 6:30 a.m. at 12:30:24 Florida. So this is almost over a year ago, back in Christmas Eve, prior to last Christmas. Last Christmas, you gave me your fog. I don't know how I was going to work that in somehow, but never know. Mind, we give it a go. However, there is a scientific reason for why fog forms, and it has nothing to do with biological weapons. Of course it doesn't. Fog, a cloud of water droplets, ice crystals, form close to the Earth's surface, and it occurs as a result of the air temperature reaching its dew point, which is its maximum water saturation. Because it's comprised of tiny particles, shining a light into fog, as seen on social media, will make them visible, and there's a link there. Look at that. Falconry Finances, FF folks, false flag. Coincidental or not, you tell me. Not to mention fog, because it's so close to the Earth's surface, absorbs pollutants and smells that could explain why residents noticed a pungent odor. The Daily Mail reported fog can... I've never smelt fog in my lifetime, and I've been on this planet for over half a century. But fog also can cause respiratory issues due to high moisture levels in the air, according to some experts. So again, you know, that isn't a biological weapon effect there. That is something that can happen due to high moisture levels in the air. Respiratory issues are, you know, influenza, subclade K. Are these two things connected? Fall and winter months are the most common times of year when fog forms. Another FF for you there, which also explains the uptick in this phenomenon across the country, a little bit like how sort of influenza spreads through the winter months. So as I said, guys, there was an article from way back in January of this year regarding chemical fog and Americans being alarmed by this spreading phenomenon, and this fog had a strange smell and was causing flu-like symptoms. And at time of recording, which is December the 18th, 2025, just this morning, multiple states within the United States of America declared high density fog alerts, and also this week in some of those same states that declared fog alerts, there was also reports of an uptake and rise in cases of subclade K. Coincidence or not? Let me know what your thoughts are in the chat if you're watching live or if you're watching subsequently after the premiere event. Leave a comment below. Great to hear contextual comments, and if it wasn't for a contextual comment, this video wouldn't be being made. So let's go and look at some more weaponized fog stuff. Okay, so this next website is PubTexto, although you could say it was PubeTexto if you wanted to raise a titillation for comedic purposes, making a pube joke. But PubTexto.com, this is an article from a couple of years ago, International Journal of Nanomatter and Molecular Nanotechnology, and it's about weaponizing weather, not exactly fog specific, but fog is weather that can be modified, but weaponizing weather modifications through nanotechnology. The abstract is, according to a 1996 research paper written for the United States Air Force, nanotechnology may one day be used to create artificial weather consisting of clouds of tiny computer particles that communicate with one another to create an intelligent fog that could be employed for a variety of reasons. Keywords there: weaponizing nanotechnology modification. According to this 1996 research paper for the US Air Force, we've already read that clouds and particles that could communicate with one another and create an intelligent fog that could be employed for a variety of reasons. Recently, while in Saudi Arabia, the writer was told that this country could get rain when it was too hot or dry. I saw this happening too. This is what weather modification is. It may be cloud seeding, which increases rain or snow, usually for the purpose of increasing the local water supply. It may control hurricanes, it may create snowstorms and the like. In fact, weather modification is the act of intentionally manipulating or ordering the weather, while weaponizing weather modification is the use of weather against an enemy by modifying it. The most common form of weather modification is now in use is cloud seeding, which increases rain or snow, usually for the purpose of increasing the local water supply. Weather modification can also have the goal of preventing damaging weather, such as hail or hurricanes, from occurring, or with provoking damaging weather against an enemy as a tactic of military or economic warfare, like Operation Popeye, where clouds were seeded to prolong the monsoon in Vietnam under a top secret program called Operation Popeye. And I just told you guys a few minutes ago that in my neck of the woods for the last 3 months we've had a very prolonged rainy season and a very overcast sky. Could this be part of US military operations? And I am not that far away as the bird flies from Cape Canaveral or several US naval bases situated in the Gulf of Mexico. But back in Vietnam, Operation Popeye was a US military attempt to weaponize weather by increasing rainfall over key enemy locations by dropping seeding units composed of silver iodide and lead iodide to increase normal monsoon rainfall. As per a report by Maxwell AFB Air War College in 2025, U.S. aerospace forces can own the weather by capitalizing on emerging technologies and focusing the development of those technologies on warfighting applications. The number of nations have initiated cloud seeding initiatives in an effort to modify participation. Trends. Each Chinese city has a local cloud seeding plan that is carried out by researchers and authorities working with the military. The Yangtze River basin received 8.56 billion metric tons of additional rainfall between June and November of 2022 as a result of the seeding conducted by 241 aircraft flights and 15,000 rocket launches, according to the People's Daily. Other nations developing the technique include the United States, the United Arab Emirates, Russia, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, Thailand, and Mexico. Well, there you go. Numerous nations have initiatives aimed at achieving different goals, such as lessening the effect of drought on farming, ensuring the availability of potable water, combating forest fires. Again, it's illegal to rain water in the United States, so I'm sure that is not designed as a purpose there, but combating forest fires and preventing and repairing ecosystems. Cloud seeding is done in roughly 20 departments in France. These techniques are of disputed effectiveness and have become a source of tension between certain countries. Use of weather modification in warfare. Prior to the Environmental Modification Convention signed in Geneva in 1977, the United States used weather warfare in the Vietnam War over the Ho Chi Minh Trail. Cloud seeding was used in Operation Popeye by the United States of America, and it was hoped that it would increase rainfall, would reduce the rate of infiltration down the trail. The Indian Defense Minister recently reported that weather modification is being used as warfare tool and cited heavy rains, floods, and earthquakes and snowstorms as being used as weather warfare. India, as we've already established and seen in this video, is also experiencing at the moment what they are calling Armageddon, and a red alert has been issued for the density of fog that India is currently experiencing. Nanotechnology in weather modification. The US military used silver iodine, but using nanotechnology, salt particles coated with a thin layer of titanium dioxide would form 2.5 times more water droplets compared to silver iodine, which would further enhance participation. A liquid redeemable capsule shell is supplied with a hygroscopic chemical agent to be used in cloud or fog seeding, allowing for the optimization of a particle size or for better seeding outcomes. When using hygroscopic chemical compounds that are fragile, brittle, or friable in crystalline structure, a fog and cloud seeding method and agent that uses microencapsulation techniques allows for controlled seeding particle size for both dry particles and particles dispensed as solution droplets, allowing for the production and maintenance of a predetermined particle spectrum. A liquid redeemable capsule shell is supplied with a hygroscopic chemical agent for use in cloud or fog seeding, allowing for the optimization of particle size. More research is needed for nanotechnology to help use nanoparticles for weather modifications. And there are some references. So there was some very, very interesting reading, and it is something we could go an awful lot deeper into if we really, really wanted to. But we have spoken about weather modification before on this channel, and I'm sure those of you who are watching will be familiar with weather modification yourself, and probably have witnessed and seen with your own eyes plenty of chemtrails in the sky above you. So one last article regarding weaponized fog before we get into some patents and then a travel back in time. We are now at pbs.org. where we are about to read an article from the American Experience, The Living Weapon, Secret Testing in the United States is the title. It's quite long, but not the longest article we've ever read, but very fascinating and interesting. So pay attention if you are watching. The start of the Cold War, the article starts out by saying, brought new foes and new fears for the officials running America's biological weapons program. Determined to anticipate possible Soviet attacks, the US staged more than 200 domestic tests aimed at assessing national vulnerabilities to biological warfare. From the Pentagon to the Pacific is the next chapter. Ira Baldwin, Camp Detrick's scientific director during World War II, left his position after the Allied victory in 1945 and returned to teaching at the University of Wisconsin. He continued to advise the government on issues concerning biological weapons. However, particularly the threat that might be posed by enemy spies releasing biological agents in American cities. In an October 1948 report, Baldwin posted that the US was particularly vulnerable to this type of attack. But in order to determine the precise nature of these vulnerabilities, secret field tests would have to be done to ascertain the vulnerability of targets for potential interest to the enemy. The enemy's chemical corps, which ran Camp Detrick, agreed with Baldwin's assessment and set up a special operations division at Camp Detrick to carry out the tests. Its first target was to be the Pentagon. Not the first time the Pentagon has been the target of a false flag event. Let me know if you know of another incident that a false flag event took place at the Pentagon. But in August 1949, the Special Operations Division operatives infiltrated the world's largest office building and sprayed bacteria into the Pentagon's air handling system, which then spread them through the structure. So this is, geez, just read what you just said there. So a special operatives division infiltrated the Pentagon and then sprayed bacteria into the air handling system. But the operatives moved to larger scale. They don't say how that experiment ended up. It just sort of quickly proved. Just don't ask anything else about what happened when they sprayed poisonous bacteria into the Pentagon. But we moved quickly on, and the operatives moved to a larger scale testing, releasing clouds contaminating supposedly harmless bacteria from Navy ships off Norfolk, Virginia, in April of 1950, and the San Francisco coast in September 1950. The San Francisco experiments showed exposure among almost all of the city's 800,000 residents had the bacteria released been anthrax bacteria or some other virulent pathogen, the number of casualties would be immense. So are we seeing that is in modern times? Are these big cloud dispersions that are lingering over various states in the US at the moment? Are they, some kind of experimental testing by the government? They've done it once, they've done it before, they've done it multiple times. What's to say they're not doing it again now? Or is the testing complete and they are actually carrying out the real incentive with these cloud and fog outbursts and the rise of subclade K, the mutant variant superflu? But the St. Joe program and the large area concept, the success of the first field test only increased demand for more experiments. In response to an Air Force request in 1953, the Chemical Corps, CC guys 33, created the St. Joe program, and operatives staged a mock anthrax attack on St. Louis, Minneapolis, and Winnipeg. The bacteria were released from generators placed on top of cars, and local governments were told that invisible smoke screens were being deployed to mask the city on enemy enemy radar. The next stage was to increase dispersal patterns, dispensing particles from aeroplanes to find out how wide of an area they would affect. The first large area concept experiment in 1957 involved dispersing microorganisms over a swath from South Dakota to Minnesota. Monitoring revealed that some of the particles eventually traveled some 1,200 miles away. Further tests covered areas from Ohio to Texas and Michigan to Kansas. In the Army's words, these experiments proved the feasibility of covering large areas of the country with biological weapon agents. Airports and subways. Bear in mind, guys, we are about to experience a very busy travel time in the United States, and many airports are going to be frequented with millions and millions of Americans and foreign visitors jumping on and off of aircraft and traveling all over the States and all over the world. So bear that in mind as we read this next part. Serratia marcians bacteria open air testing continued through the 1960s with the Special Operations Division operatives simulating an even more audacious assaults. In 1965, they spread bacteria throughout Washington's National Airport, and a year later, agents dropped light bulbs filled with organisms onto the tracks in the New York subway system. I think it spread pretty good, participant Wally Penner later said, because you had a natural aerosol developed every few minutes from every train that went past. President Nixon's 1969 termination of the United States offensive biological weapons program brought an end to open-air testing. Sure it did. But the American public did not learn of this testing until 1977. Relatives of one elderly man, Edward Nevin, who had died of nosocomial infection 6 months after the San Francisco tests, sued the government in 1981, arguing that the supposedly harmless Serratia bacteria used in that test had in fact caused his death. In the event, the courts ruled against them, the main reason being that the plaintiffs could not prove that the bacteria used in the tests were the same as those that killed Mr. Nevin. And that is it, guys. So that is the end of that article from pbs.org. Very, very interesting. In each and every one of those examples and experiments, it is a video of itself. But as I said, we're not going to get too into it. I just wanted to point out that the American government has in the past been known to carry out and conduct experiments on its own citizens using biological weapons. Not saying that is what is going on right now, but there is a lot of evidence and coincidental events that you could argue is evidence to support the fact that yes, the government is spraying the United States with biological weapons, and these outbreaks of fogs are correlated and running in conjunction with the outbreak of subclade K. If you are watching live in the chat, let me know if you conclude with that theory, or if you have a theory of your own. So let's go and watch a couple of videos regarding a couple of those experiments that we've just had, and then we're going to come back with some patents.
Now to a News Nation exclusive investigation into a secret government experiment that was carried out in St. Louis. Residents tell us they still remember a mysterious fog. Children would run through it. Mothers would try and close their windows against it. For decades, they all had questions, and now we're seeking answers. The United States Army now admits that it sprayed a chemical that contained cadmium, a known carcinogen, on a neighborhood of more than 10,000 people. Critics say this was done with no warning and no consent. Well, tonight we return to the site of that demolished neighborhood and speak with former residents who believe the government turned them into human test subjects. Although the Army admits that the test happened, it is not admitted to harming the residents. News Nation's Natasha Zuvez investigates what was in the fog and why the truth may still be buried.
The fog drifted through the streets like a ghost.
That's exactly what it looked like, a thick fog.
It was summertime and it was hot. We would just run through it as fast as we could and try to just cool ourselves off. It stuck to you.
The spray was so foul as far as the odor. It made some of us have headaches, nausea, dizziness.
That's what I remember. It made me sick.
It wasn't the weather. It was an eerie smoke descending from rooftops, rolling from the backs of trucks.
Regular flatbed truck, but it had a big machine on the back. And it had a big nozzle that really sprayed a fog you couldn't even see through. It was that thick. And it really, we felt it as it would adhere to our skin. And as far as the guys on top of the buildings, they tried to portray them to us as maintenance workers. But we was like, what is a maintenance worker doing? And basically a hazmat suit. And they had masks and goggles.
In the 1950s and 60s, in secret, the U.S. Army sprayed zinc cadmium sulfide into the air of a St. Louis housing project, a largely black neighborhood called Pruitt-Igoe.
It was a lose-lose situation for us in Pruitt-Igoe. We were subjects. We were subjects.
They didn't ask for our permission. We didn't ask for them to spray us. My government used me like I was a guinea pig.
We're standing at where Pruitt-Igoe used to be here in St. Louis, and it's hard to believe more than 10,000 people used to live here. As we bring our drone up, you can see it's mostly just an empty lot now, overgrown with trees. This used to be filled with 33 high-rise buildings. It was all demolished in 1976. And according to the National Research Council, St. Louis was chosen for spraying experiments because it had similar characteristics to Soviet targets like Moscow in terms of population density and terrain and proximity to a river. The government now admits to a secretive series of Cold War tests, including one dubbed large area coverage. More than 30 tests conducted across the U.S. and Canada, spraying zinc cadmium sulfide from planes, rooftops, and vehicles to simulate how a biological attack might spread, all to prepare for potential warfare against the Soviets.
Many of us been in the military and had top secret clearances. We know how it works.
We have died for America. We have fought for America.
You are a veteran.
I am United States Air Force veteran.
Dr. Starks, you're a veteran as well, isn't
Yes, I am. I'm an Air Force veteran also.
Is there a sense of betrayal here?
Definitely, definitely.
They want to know if those secret tests have anything to do with what they're observing with their own eyes.
I lost my two older siblings to cancer. I lost a brother last month.
I've been diagnosed recently with a rare form of lymphoma.
I had cancer of the left kidney, had partial removal of my left kidney.
News Nation reached out to the Army for answers. They provided a one-page response. It says the Army's own Center for Health Promotion and Preventive Medicine investigated in 1994 and found inhalation exposure would not pose a health risk. They also cite later corroborating reviews, including a 1997 review by the National Research Council. Perhaps they assumed we wouldn't read the NRC's 380-page report, but we did, and the Army's statement doesn't show the full picture. In that 1997 review, the National Research Council explicitly says repeated exposure to zinc cadmium sulfide can cause kidney or bone toxicity or lung cancer if levels are high enough. And they admitted they couldn't fully assess the risk. Why? Because some Army records remain classified, it says, for national security reasons. More troubling, key Army exposure records were missing, and when the NRC asked the Army to supply them, the Army said it couldn't find them. Finally, the NRC considered conducting its own study, but concluded it wasn't feasible. In short, it did not test the site, collect samples, or test residents, and they didn't have access to all the data. Their review was based on what the Army gave them, and what the Army either could not find or withheld. The Army ends its statement to News Nation by saying, quote, none of the reports contained evidence of a radioactive component to the zinc cadmium sulfide dispersion tests. Residents say the secrecy and delays are no accident.
They're waiting us out.
They're waiting on all of us to die.
But that's not even the whole story, as residents demand to know what else could have been in that spray.
They have not come clean with what was in there.
Do you believe that it was just zinc cadmium sulfide in that spray?
No.
No.
We go to the source, a researcher who has spent decades declassifying government documents about these tests. Do you believe the U.S. government sprayed some kind of radioactive material on the residents of St. Louis? I believe that they did. And the government's surprising response to our request to declassify information.
I mean, what the hell?
Plus, renowned activist Erin Brockovich weighs in. Do you think there's been a lie here, a cover-up here?
It sure looks that way.
The residents are asking for an apology from the government for being experimented on. They are asking for compensation for health studies for themselves and their children. They're also asking for transparency. They want the government to release all the documents about the spraying. So, Elizabeth, tomorrow night on your show, we will go on a journey to try to declassify the one government document that a key researcher tells us she has never been able to expose. And we take the investigation to Erin Brockovich. For the residents still here, still fighting, the question is whether they will get any answers before it's too late. Elizabeth.
Well, they have a better chance of it with you on the case. Natasha Zuvez, thank you so much. In part one of our News Nation investigation last night, we uncovered a mysterious fog that once drifted through a St. Louis neighborhood, one that residents still remember decades later.
It made some of us have headaches, nausea, dizziness.
They didn't ask for our permission. We didn't ask for them to spray us. My government used me like I was a guinea pig.
They're waiting us out.
They're waiting on all of us to die.
The government admits it sprayed a chemical that contained cadmium, a known carcinogen, critics say without warning and without consent. They sprayed it on a neighborhood of more than 10,000 people, but now years later, residents are getting sick, some with rare forms of cancer, and they're asking what else might be hidden from them. Specifically, what else could have been in that spray? News Nation's Natasha Zuvez picks up the investigation from here.
We're on our way to meet with a researcher right now who has dedicated her career, decades, to declassifying documents and trying to figure out what exactly happened here in the city of St. Louis and what exactly was in that spray. Across the country, the government conducted secret Cold War experiments in plain sight.
It was so secretive that we're really just now sort of digging out from underneath this to try to understand the scale of it.
And Dr. Lisa Martino-Taylor helped uncover many of them.
We know that they were giving radioactive cocktails to pregnant women. We know that they were feeding radioactive oatmeal to children in state schools. They've admitted to those things, and they won't release the material related to St. Louis.
It's true. American children in state-run institutions like the Fernald School were fed radioactive oatmeal as part of studies by MIT sponsored by the Atomic Energy Commission. You can see some of the documents Dr. Martino-Taylor worked to gather and declassify on MIT letterhead describing experiments on human subjects. The children, some of them orphans, were told they'd be joining a science club. They were promised a quart of milk a day, a trip to a baseball game, to the beach. A copy of the 1994 congressional hearing shows those children, now grown, describing being told the oatmeal was just vitamins and recalling the health problems that followed: lumps on my arms, my stomach. Pregnant women were also unknowingly given radioactive iron at top hospitals in Tennessee and California to study how radiation crossed the placenta, some later reporting miscarriages, illness, or birth defects. A class action lawsuit resulted in a settlement in the 90s. Do you believe the U.S. government sprayed some kind of radioactive material on the residents of St. Louis?
I believe that they did. There's so much contextual evidence that points that way, and I spent years looking at this.
She says her research reveals the men who designed and oversaw the St. Louis experiments were some of the top experts in radioactive weapons.
We know that the people who designed the study, who oversaw the study, these were all the radiological weapons experts who were looking at open-air radiological weapons.
One of them, Brigadier General William Creasy, was head of the Army Chemical Corps, the very branch leading America's secret radiological weapons program during the Cold War. He brought in a scientist named Philip Layton, who was the Army's leading authority on using radioactive particles in aerosol form, fog-like clouds designed to drift over enemy terrain.
So the very man who designed this spraying experiment in St. Louis was an expert in using radioactive fog against the enemy.
Yes, he was the expert, the expert.
Then she says there's the timing.
They were looking for a city to test their offensive weapons program. They wanted to do it. They expressed this in documents. St. Louis was their chosen city. That was their analog city to Moscow. And they wanted to do this in 1953. They showed up in 1953 in St. Louis.
But there's one document Dr. Martino Taylor has never been able to unearth. It's still classified. The Joint Quarterly Reports detail the spraying experiments, all written by Layton himself. The last one is missing. It's called Joint Quarterly Report 5, and we tried to get it. Our team filed a Freedom of Information Act request on May 5th of 2025. By law, the government must respond to a FOIA within 20 working days. But it's been more than 3 months with multiple follow-ups. Nothing. The silence is what's called a constructive denial, and renowned activist Erin Brockovich says it reminds her of cases where the truth was hidden.
So Erin, what is your reaction to this News Nation investigation? Did this shock even you?
Absolutely. I think my comment was, are we WTF the kidding me? I mean, what the hell? It's awful. I mean, the biggest thing, and I've learned in 30 years, is it's always the cover-up that enrages people, that hurts people. And I've learned that communities can handle the truth. What they don't handle and where they'll tip a scale is the lie. So this has been a cover-up, and I think that modern-day agencies owe it to them, the truth.
Do you think there's been a lie here, a cover-up here?
It sure looks that way.
Our investigation now drawing attention from lawmakers, including Congressman Wesley Bell of Missouri.
When American citizens have been impacted and exposed to chemicals specifically because of the federal government, I think that we should do, as Democrats and Republicans, we should all do the right thing, make certain to make these folks whole again, get them the compensation they deserve and the treatment that they need and also deserve.
It can happen to you. Don't get duped that it can't happen to you. We didn't think it was going to happen to us. We was babies, kids. It can happen to you, too.
Representative Bell is now fighting to get Pruitt-Igoe included in the Radiation Exposure Compensation Act. That would provide payouts to Americans who can prove they were exposed to radiation during the Cold War. But for Pruitt-Igoe residents, there's a catch. Because key records remain classified, they haven't been able to prove what they were exposed to.
What do you want everyone to know about what happened here?
The truth. Whatever the truth is, we want to know the truth. I don't think we get it now.
In the meantime, residents say all they can do is wait, hoping someone finally listens.
When will you give up this fight?
Never. Till I'm cold and dead and buried in my grave.
And Elizabeth, we asked the Army point blank, was there a radioactive component to that spray? It's interesting that they didn't just say no. Rather, they said, quote, none of the reports contained evidence of a radioactive component, pointing us to reports like a review by the National Research Council. But Elizabeth, a close read of that report shows even the NRC admitted they could not fully assess the risk of the spraying, because when they asked the Army for key records, the Army replied the documents were either classified or they were missing. The Army could not find them. And Elizabeth, I have to tell you, these residents feel the government is waiting them out. The people you just heard from last night and tonight are the ones who are still here, who are well enough to speak. One woman we were supposed to meet with died before we could get to her. She was suffering from multiple cancers. Her daughter asked us to keep going, and we will keep pushing for information, including those classified documents, Elizabeth.
All right, Natasha Zuva, stay on the case. Thank you so much for that investigation.
Before we do get into some patents regarding weaponized fog, this article from USA Today from back in 2016, nearly 10 years ago, it was actually updated on December the 13th, 2016, is about the mystery of a London fog that killed 12,000 people, and it's been finally solved. But the decades-old mystery of what caused the killer fog that claimed the lives of thousands of people here appears to have been solved by a team of international scientists. The Great Smog, which blanketed the British capital for 5 days in December of 1952, is estimated by some experts to have killed more than 12,000 people and hospitalized 150,000 of animals. Thousands of animals also died. So 12,000 people were killed, 150,000 people were hospitalized, and thousands of animals died during this British military experiment during a cold snap on December the 5th that year. Sulfur particles mixed with fumes from burning coal and made the yellow fog smell like rotten eggs. Some Londoners reported being unable to see their feet, and transportation was cancelled with the exception of the London Underground. Birds flew into building and robberies increased as thieves were able to make an easy getaway. The smog eventually lifted on December the 9th after cold winds swept the fumes out to the North Sea. The event eventually led to the Clean Air Act of 1956, restricting the burning of coal in urban areas in the United Kingdom. But a team of scientists now believe they have solved that mystery of the exact cause and nature of the fog, though lab experiments in measuring the atmosphere in China, which is home to 16 of the most 20 polluted cities on the world. Their work was published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. People have known that sulfate was a big contributor to the fog, and sulfuric acid particles were formed from sulfur dioxide released by coal burning for residential use and power plants and other means. Lead author Renji Zhang, a scientist at Texas A&M University, said in a statement, "But how the sulfur dioxide was turned into sulfuric acid was unclear. Our results showed that this process was facilitated by nitrogen dioxide, another co-product of coal burning, and it occurred initially on natural fog." The study said that similar conditions often occur in China, but the difference in China is that the haze starts from much smaller nanoparticles, and the sulfurate formation process is only possible with ammonia to neutralize the particles, Zhang said. He said sulfur dioxide is mainly emitted by power plants in China, while nitrogen dioxide comes from power plants and vehicles, and ammonia comes from fertilizer use and vehicles. Again, the right chemical processes have to interplay for the deadly haze to occur in China. Interestingly, while the London fog was highly acidic, contemporary Chinese haze is basically neutral, he added. And that is that. So another example from the 1950s, this time in the United Kingdom, that a mystery fog that was chemically ordered killed 12,000 people and hospitalized over 150. So as promised, let's get over to some patents. First up for the patents is US Patent 1665267A, the process of producing artificial fogs. The inventor was Jernberg Axel Vidar. I'm sure you could make something out of that in an anagram generator. And the worldwide application was 1925, and it expired actually in 1945, but it was granted in 1928. Nearly 100 years ago, look, this patent was first introduced. But what is its description? Patented, there you go, April 10th, 1928, United States. The process of producing an artificial fog. In the production of artificial fogs, it is necessary in order to obtain a successful result as well as a form of economical point of view. To have a thermaterial or materials used in the production of the fog as finely divided as possibly before entering the open air, and to see that concentration of the fog particles formed during the process does not become so large on any point that an agglomeration of such particles can take place at that point, thereby reducing the efficiency of the formation of fog or tog. Sorry there, I'm not misreading if that's a spelling mistake or not. My invention refers, not my invention, the guy who invented this, his invention refers to the process of obtaining the best possible results in the respect and consists in that material or materials used for the production are finely divided in 2 or more stages before entering the open air. This division can be executed in several ways, either chemically or mechanically, or in a combined mechanico-chemical way. The nature of the process may suitably be explained by a description of a particularly tested apparatus for its performance. A constructional form of such an apparatus, smoke or fog syringe, is illustrated diagrammatically in the accompanying drawing. The apparatus consists of a smoke or its back end with its other end open and projecting into another wider tube provided with a spreading screen at its outer end. The tube surrounds the tube in the mixer and is provided with an inlet for air or another gas in its back part. Through the back end of the tube runs a pipe forming an inferior infiltrator. The fluid or fluids, gases or liquids can be used in the production of fogs with this apparatus. So let's not go too further in it, 'cause it's very annoying to read and very, very small. I'm just going to scroll down and see if there are any diagrams. No, they're not. But there are a list of an awful lot of lists here for producing patents for producing gases that you might want to check out. So scroll through some of those. In US 1830633A, 1931 1103, mixing gases and liquids. Process for diminishing the resistance of currents in conduct pipes. Nothing very interesting there. Something to do with semen, 1880. Devices for making liquid. So I guess in some of these liquids and gases may be sort of applicable to being used in a fog making machine. But that was a first one up, and as I said, it was nearly 100 years ago. A patent US 1665267A, the process of producing artificial fogs. Next up, US 1338343A, the process and apparatus for the production of intense artificial clouds, fogs or mists. And again, a very old patent that was applied for in 1916 and was granted in 1920. And we're not going to read too much of this because again, it is very, very difficult to read. Sort of inventors 100 years ago or nearly 100 years ago were a little bit pretentious, let's say that, and used some very interesting language. But basically, this patent is for some sort of device that you can fill up with toxins and gas and then shoot it out through a funnel. It is not necessarily in order to produce intense fogs or mists to introduce a precisely determined quantity of ammoniacal gas. And there are also lots of hard words to read in this. But I did just want to point out that there is another patent that is actually, that's over 100 years ago now, in 1916, we're in 1926, right? And we're about to be in 2026. So yeah, look at that, guys. Nearly 100 years ago, this patent, US 1338343A, the process of apparatus for production of intense artificial clouds, fogs, or mists, was filed. So this isn't new technology, guys. The sort of it's not outlandish to consider the possibility that maybe there is technology or devices out there that can manipulate the weather and create clouds and fogs, because 100 years ago they were filing patents to do just that. And with technological advancements, you can only wonder what they are able to do today. US Patent 2451019A, apparatus for producing artificial fog, was applied for in 1943. The application was granted in 1948, and it expired in 1965. An apparatus for producing an artificial fog filed on August 31st, 1945. The present invention relates to the art of producing fine dispersions of liquids in gaseous vehicles, fogs, mists, and the like, which may be employed for various purposes, for examples for obstruction in wartime, or for insect or other pest control, and for the prevention of frost in fields, orchards, and the like. The invention relates not only to improved method, but likewise to an apparatus for producing such fog. The invention will be fully understood from the following description and drawing. Is there a drawing? Probably, but very, very, very long, very, very small print, and lots of complicated words. The claim here is the apparatus for producing an artificial fog comprising of a porta fire chamber and a source for heating the same, a steam coil mounted therein, a second coil also mounted therein and adapted to heat and completely vaporize a distillable organic liquid, a nozzle connected with a discharge end of the first mentioned coil and connected with the inlet end of the second mentioned coil. See, I told you guys, it drives you fucking insane reading these at times, but that shouldn't deter you from reading them, because they are very, very interesting and very, very telling. As you said, look guys, there's another list of relatable patents in similar documents there. So again, there was another one that is extremely old, US 2451019A, an apparatus for producing artificial fog. Right, we've got a little bit more into modern times with our next patent for a bipolar fog abatement system, and this patent number is US 4475927A, and it was applied for in 1981, and it was granted in 1984. The abstract: a method and a system for the abatement of fog in a designated area, in a designated airspace over an aircraft approach zone and runway, consisting of a gaped air jets laden with electrically charged droplets of low mobility, a ground corona guard in the form of a shallow water and oil basin, and charged collector drops emitting device on the ground, arranged in such a manner that the low mobility charged droplets blown aloft by the jets form a virtual electrode suspended at appropriate height above the ground, towards which the oppositely charged high mobility collector drops move, therefore collecting the neutral fog drops in their paths. The perforation ratio of the gapped air jets array is chosen such that the wind flux which penetrates the jet array is substantially equal to the entrainment flux at the lee side of the jets, thereby providing for a virtual canopy over the spatial region in which the fog is to be abated. A corona guard prevents neutralization of the collective electric field set up by the charged droplets blown aloft by air jets, and also prevents premature neutralization of these droplets. There are some images there. And this is the claims of what it can and can't do. As you can see, very, very long, lots and lots of complicated words again, but yet another fog-related US patent for your consideration. This patent is more recent and is from Russia, RU2616358C1. Fog dissipator, and it was filed or applied for in 2016, and it was granted in 2017. And we'll just read the abstract. Field electricity substance. A device contains an electrode which is installed with a gap with respect to the grounded surface and connected to the power supply. See, that they're easier to read when they're more modern. These olden type folks, what were they chatting about? God only knows. But probably they were speaking far more correctly than we do in this day and age. But it is in a form of a smooth surface with a positive curvature of shell. The grounded surface is made from a mesh shell surrounded electrodes. The claims is a device for dispersing fog containing an electrode installed in a gap relative to the ground plane and connected to a power supply made in the form of a smooth container with a curvature. The invention relates to the field of technology designed to disperse fog in a controlled area, aerodromes, high-speed roads, open areas for various sports and entertainment events where it is necessary to fulfill the requirements of transparency of the atmosphere and to ensure the fulfillment of the requirements for ensuring the range of its visibility. So this one doesn't actually make fog, it gets rid of fog or directs fog to where you want it to go. If you wanted to disperse fog, then you would use this, but they always have a dual purpose, but it is a fog related patent. Another more recent patent, this from the European Patent Office, comes from Germany, I believe, and it is European Patent EP1689999. Sorry, let me read that again. EP1689936A, 369, folks. Method to fog and mist dispersion and related apparatus. And this is from 2003. It was applied for, but was also withdrawn. The abstract was the present invention relates to a method for coagulation and dispersion of fog and installation thereof. In particular, a system for fog dispersal over automobile roads, highways, roundabouts, and railroads. The process produces fog or mist particle coagulation using fields of sonic, ultrasonic, or electromagnetic waves that are generated within a power density level and then can be projected to selected area of an open space where they produce forces on particles and then the movement of above mentioned particles. So you can fire this into a fog and redirect it, or put it where you want it to be, I'm guessing. So there are some of the claims. As I say, guys, we're not going to get too into these. We can get carried away, or I can get very, very carried away with patents and start clicking on all the sort of other reference and can be lost in these for hours and hours and hours. And I am very aware that my battery also needs recharging again. So I did want to highlight a few patents before wrapping things up, but what we will do is just go and get an AI overview of electromagnetic fog patents before we head back to the virtual basement to wrap things up. My apologies, I meant to say weaponized fog patterns, but here is an AI overview. Weaponized fog patterns cover creating dense, persistent or otherwise tactical smoke/fog for military or law enforcement or for simulation using methods like multi-stage automatization, US 1665267, charged aerosols for defense, US 470492, bioluminescent agents, or US 2600-44781A1, or even a capsicum-based smoke for crowd control, patent 10.941.086, often involving specific apparatus like vortex generators US 2889284A, or specialized delivery systems from aircrafts or shells. Examples of weaponized fog patterns. Early artificial fog, US 1665267-1928, a process to create dense, efficient fog by finely dividing materials like phosphorus in multiple stages, often using heat and friction. Charged aerosol defense, US 47049428, a method to neutralize toxic aerosols by spraying a defensive aerosol like a disinfectant that's electrically charged up to 100,000 volts to react with the threat. Bioluminescent fog, patent US 2600-44781A1, creating fog with bioluminescent material for making targets or indicating areas delivered via sprayers. Now, indicating targets or marking targets or indicating areas is very interesting, because are these dense cloud coverings over certain cities a targeting system for perhaps interstellar object? Who knows? Just theorizing and exploring avenues of alternative possibilities. And again, guys, I'm sorry, I wanted to put every single one of these patents into this video, but some of these patents are sort of a video on their own, and I'm sort of almost aware that we're getting close to 2 hours in time duration of this video, so I did want it to keep it around 2 hours for running time this particular time around, so why we're not getting too carried away in highlighting each and every single one of these patents. There we go, that was the one we just read with the marking for targets. Intense cloud production, US 1338343A, automizing fumes in a moist anomical atmosphere with substances to increase fog opacity, often using pressurized gas. Vortex fog generators, US 28892884A, and apparatus using air pressure and oil automatizers in a vortex system to create a dense fog. Capsicanoid smoke, patent 10.941.086, a modern example for smoke screens or non-lethal uses incorporating capsicum pepper spray ingredient. Pepper spray ingredient. So my goodness, imagine that, making a cloud or a fog of pepper spray. That'd do some damage and cause some irritations, I'm sure. Key technologies and concepts: atomization and dispersion using high pressure, heat or vortexes to create extremely fine droplets or particles, chemical agents using phosphorus, sulfur, trioxide, ammonium nitrate or capsicum to generate the fog or smoke. A delivery system can be an aircraft, shells, drones. Remember those drones that we were hearing about before the mysterious stinky fog started dispersing earlier in the year? or specialized ground-based machines. So is all of this connected? I suspect possibly it is, but again, I'd like to hear your thoughts and opinions through your comments. So use your words and voices, folks. Try to restrict the amount of emojis if possible, but any contextual comments, as I said, are welcomed with open arms here. And they're also used for making specialized effects, I guess, for the entertainment industry. And here are a list at the bottom, some patents that you can go and check out for yourselves, and there's a whole list of them below that you can check out. Oh my goodness, NASA government. Let's look at that one, because that's the NASA, and then we will head back to the artificial basement to wrap things up. My God, we're never going to be able to read this, even with my best glasses. This is again from NASA, a government application here. Active polymorphic material utility fog can be designed as a conglomeration of 100 micron robotic cells, foglets. Such robots could be built with the techniques of a molecular nanotechnology, controllers with processing capabilities of 1,000 MIPS per cubic micron, and electromotors with power densities of over 1 milliwatt per cubic micron are assumed. A utility fog should be capable of simulating most everyday materials, dramatically changing its form and properties, and form a substrate for an integrated virtual reality and tele-robotics. Jesus Christ, I'm glad we clicked on this one, but we're not going to get too much into that. But introduction, we will read, imagine a microscopic robot. It has a body about the size of a human cell and 12 arms sticking out in all directions. A bucket full of such robots might form a robot crystal by linking their arms up into a lattice structure. Now take a room with people, furniture, and or other objects in it. It's still mostly empty air. Fill the air completely full of robots. With the right programming, the robots can exert any force in any direction on the surface of any object. They can support the object so that it is apparently floats in the air. They can support a person applying the same pressures to the seat of the pants that the chair would. They can extract the same resisting forces that elbows and fingertips would receive from the arms and backs of a chair. A program running in the utility fog can thus simulate the physical existence of an object. The utility fog operates in two modes. First, the naive mode, where the robots act much like cells, and each robot occupies a particular position and does a particular function in a given object. The second, or fog mode, has the robots acting more like pixels on a TV stream. The object is then formed, my goodness, in patterns of robots, which their properties according to which part of the object they are representing at the time. An object can then move across a cloud of robots, with the individual robots moving just as the pixels on a CRT remain stationary while pictures around this move around on the screen. Not going to go too much into that, but my goodness, guys, there is a patent from, what's happened to it? From NASA. The patent number is N9427367. A utility fog, a universal physical substance. And that is by James Storrs Hall, Rutgers University in New Brunswick, New Jersey. And I am extremely glad that we clicked on that. I'm going to come back to that. And there are 12 pages to go through. That's going to be painstaking with the way it's printed. But maybe you guys watching might be interested in the NASA patent N9427367. Robots that link arm and lift people in the air. I guess that could be good for using, good to be put to use while staging a fake rapture, perhaps. But that's where we will leave it for today, guys. I will see you momentarily back in the virtual basement to wrap things up. So for those of you who have made it this far and are still watching, give yourself a huge pat on the back and a massive round of applause, because your attention span is far superior than that of the average human in 2025, where recent reports have highlighted and reported that the average attention span of the average human in 2025 is that of a goldfish. So think about that if you will. But 2025 does look as though it is going to end in the way that it began, under clouds of a toxic fog. And there's been a lot of information in this evening's video, and it has been a little bit longer than I had anticipated. And believe me, guys, there is a whole bunch of stuff that didn't make it into this evening's video, and a whole bunch of stuff on the cutting room floor. But as I was saying, it does look as though the year is ending the way it began, only it is ending under the rising superflu epidemic that is currently unraveling and developing week for week. That wasn't an issue at the start of the year. Now, what if we've listened to this evening's video? Hopefully you've listened to this evening's video, and we've heard that the government in the past has conducted multiple and numerous experiments on its own citizens within the borders of the United States, using weaponized weather, fog that has caused people to get all sorts of sickness and even resulting in deaths. We've also heard that the United Kingdom have also had a little bit of tinkering around with weather modification and weaponizing the weather, and also caused a few deaths and 150,000 hospitalizations. So is the possibility that this recent outbreak of superflu subclade K is running in conjunction with this sudden emergence of fog covering multiple states and cities across the United States? Not only in the United States, we've also heard from England and from India in this video, also suffering from severe fog symptoms. So what if I present to you an alternative avenue of hypothesis that at the beginning of this year, back in January and February, when there were first reports of people experiencing toxic fog that was giving them flu-like symptoms, that what if that was the beta test they were carrying out and experimenting to see the results of whatever it was that they unleashed within those fog fields that were preventing people from having visibility more than a quarter of a mile. And many of the people that went out, and we've heard in this episode, that many of the people that did go out and spend some time in that foggy condition did develop flu-like symptoms. And of course, subclade K, the superflu, is a mutant strain of influenza that is on the rise, coincidentally at the same time that we are seeing a large amount of fog clusters over the United States. Is that coincidence, or is that by accident, or is it deliberate? Are the government currently experimenting? And was that, as I was saying, back in 2024, towards the end of the year and into the early months and weeks of 2025, many people around the United States were experiencing foggy conditions, dense fog blankets over their cities, and were also experiencing flu-like symptoms. So what if that was a dummy run just to test to see if it works? Once they started getting some results back and hearing that people are sick, great, we're ready to go. We just need to create the perfect ingredients, the perfect surroundings in order to implement that. And what better time to stage a pandemic or a flu outbreak than during the dawn of flu season and during the busiest travel period of the year. We are currently only 4 or 5 days away from Christmas, and I'm almost sure that people in the United States have already begun to travel to other cities to visit family and friends for the holidays, and many people already have contracted subclade K. As of this week, the data was showing figures in the United States as 3 million cases with over 1,000 already dead. So this is the perfect environment for an actual virus to spread, and it is also the perfect cover story that if you were going to be spreading a biological weaponized weather campaign that was fog based and was going to make people sick when they went out in this fog, then you've got your plausible deniability. Well, you know, it was an outbreak, we were warning people not to travel, stay at home if they were sick, get vaccinated, wear masks. Many people didn't do that. They went and traveled through Christmas, they become dreaded spread. And now here we are in the faces and the midst of an epidemic pandemic once again. And as I said, that is a hypothetical situation. As we have established, the government have been known to carry out conduct experiments in this field historically on numerous occasions. What's to say they're not doing it again? There is a very, very good chance that the fog is perfectly natural and absolutely nothing to worry about, and there is a very good chance that indeed influenza has mutated and provided us with a new subclade K variant of the virus for this season, this year's flu season. Unfortunately, the vaccine wasn't made in time to include, but it will prevent you from getting hospitalization or your symptoms from being extremely severe if you do choose to get yourself jabbed for this season's influenza season. And if or not this cloud fog covering is connected to the subclade K outbreak, we possibly may not know in our lifetime. We are just here to explore alternative avenues of possibility and look at the evidence and information that has been contained within tonight's video, and it is as always for you to make of it what you will. With all that being said, before I do wrap it up, a very, very special thanks once again to Matt Bingham for this viewer inspired content, because had he not pointed out the fact that California had been under a blanket fog for several months and many people were getting sick, I would have probably not looked into this and sort of theorized that it is in fact running coalition with the subclade. Excuse me, it's been a very long day of recording and editing, and I'm sort of at the point of time where I just want this done and dusted and out of the way. But are the two connected? You tell me. I strongly suspect that there is every possibility that the two are connected, and I do suspect that come February we may be facing lockdowns and entering into a second pandemic. But again, thank you Matt Bingham for this viewer inspired content this evening, and hopefully this viewer inspired content will inspire other viewers to leave contextual comments that will in turn into future viewer inspired content. A shout out to I Am Electric. You sent me a video that was very interesting that was going to be contained in this, but it was a little too late in the day, and you and I both know there were some sort of foobarrs in extraordinary circumstances surrounding that video that seemed to disappear the minute you shared it. So thanks to I Am Electric for sending me a link relevant to tonight's topic, and again thank you Matt Bingham for giving me the heads up about the fog in California that was making people sick. And you know, we've heard that as of today at time of recording that many states were under fog advisory warnings, and many of those states that issued those fog advisory warnings were also states that this week have reported an increase in the amount of victims or sufferers members of subclade K. So that's it, guys, for one day. That is this evening's unwatchable content done and dusted. All that is left for me to say is thank you, each and every one of you who has watched, and until next time, remember folks, please be excellent to each other. May the force be with us. Until I see you again, this is Ardy signing out for now. Take care, folks.
Sit, Ubu, sit. Good dog.
Be excellent to each other. Party on, dudes!
Hey, Luke. May the force be with you.
All right. Take care now. Bye-bye then.